So with the Teal Mask DLC officially being released, we have a ton of returning Pokemon, a ton of move pool additions as well that I'm going to talk about today. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to subscribe because we're on our way to the end of the year. 10k subs! It's going to be cutting close. It might be lofty, but you know what? We're going to try for it. Now, this is not everything that's returning here, and I don't even think this is every move pool addition here. I tried to keep it to what I thought might have a chance of being viable in Inu, as well as even being Inu to begin with. Because, yeah, I mean, I'd love to put my Lodic here, but I don't think my Lodic will drop to Inu at the very beginning, oddly enough. So these are going to be mons that I think will be Inu very early on in the metagame, and these are going to be mons that are currently Inu, or, you know, tiered lower, but got move pool additions that I believed were significant enough to mention. And you'll see a trend with the moves that are being brought back down here, so let's get into it. So, Sandslash is a returning Pokemon, and this is relevant because it's a ground type. And right now, of course, NU has Sandaconda, and that is the list. There's nothing else to it. More ground types is always good, and although we've already seen Sandaconda sort of start to waver just a tiny bit in terms of its usefulness, mostly because, well, there's a far greater amount of Stealth Rock setting competition now with Kaparaja and Earthworm and even Blissey still, in addition to ground type Volt Switch blocking not really being viewed as like the most useful niche, because there's not a single ground type that's reliably blocking not Sandslashes, but Rotomo's Volt Switch. You're seeing a little bit less usage of it. Sandslash, it's not like it does anything that Sandaconda does, but it does still have the moves Knockoff and Spikes. And you know, I could see a world where someone tries some really poverty sand team with a Hippopotas and tries to get it to work. Because, I mean, we remember in Gen 8 NU, especially near the end of the generation, this mon with Sword Stance, or even just like 3 attack sets with Spikes, was really, really dominant. So maybe it makes a return, I don't know. But it's another option. It learns Rapid Spin, I assume, still, as well. Obviously, you're going to see nothing come up as legal because this mon's not registered as being in the game yet. C'est la vie. Vulpix is next, and you may be asking yourself... I don't know if you are, because I already have this selected. You may be asking yourself, though, why would you put Vulpix here? There's no way that mon could be in you, right? Well, as you see, I mean, in Drought, Vulpix with Drought has been hyper viable many times before in Inu, because Drought alone makes this mon incredible. I mean, I believe somehow if Wingull got Drizzle, that it would see Inu use, because Manual Weather, you know, it's got issues with, you know, taking turns to set the weather and then having to find a way to safely get the weather sweepers in. It takes up turns. Vulpix, you just throw it out there. I could switch out immediately. And that's really all there is to this thing's viability. It's not like it's going to be tearing down teams on its own, but it doesn't have to. It enables these teams to be super good just through setting weather automatically, and that alone is quite huge. Poliwrath, of course, we have... What's our bulky water types in Inu? Please, point them out. Bruxish? No. Klowitzer? No. Floatzel? Hell no. Gudra? Yeah, not a water type. Quillfish? Yes! Exactly one. Named a special water type move it is switching into. Yeah. Samurott? Nope. So, having another option for a bulky water type is really cool, and Poliwrath has a lot of useful niches in this field. One, it's also a knockoff resist, and yeah, if you've seen the DLC move pool leaks, you'll know knockoff is back. It's a bit more than back, even. So that's gonna be really cool. It's a straight up water immunity, too. That's nice because it means if, say, I'm Terra Dark on this thing, right? As you see, it also got knockoff, so there's more incentive here. If I'm like Terra Dark, I hardwall Bruxish now if it doesn't have, like, you know, Terra Blast Fairy or something. Rest Talk sets with Circle Throw, those probably get really good now on some of those bulky spike stacking teams. This is going to be a really cool mon. And even this is just a buff to bulk up sweeping sets too. Because you've got a move in knockoff that lets you set up your sweep for your Poliwrath. You're able to get rid of any helmets Pokemon may have. Maybe you're able to aggressively knock a Scarf from Rotomo even, which that's not really going to help Poliwrath itself sweep, but it could just make it easier on your team. Overall, this figures to be probably one of the better mons in Inu. Golem is dropping. I don't really know if this mon's gonna be too good, but I still included it because it seems like it could be somewhat viable on hyper offense, just because it is sturdy. I don't actually know. Is Custapberry in the game right now? It's not. Okay. So, I was gonna say if Custap's in the game, maybe it could be okay. But, with sturdy, I just figure, again, it's a potential lead on hyper offense. You don't have to run Focus Sash. That's really all there is to this mon. I don't think it'll be very relevant at all. And yet, Wheezing! This mon could actually just save the entirety of the NU tier right now. And why do I say that? Neutralizing gas an option here too, by the way. Look at our tier. Look at the number of fighting types. Flamigo is still in the build. That mon's gone, by the way. But I mean, it would check Grim. Heracross is checked. Hariyama is checked, especially if you're on neutralizing gas. Metacham, okay, you got me there. You did get me there. Passimian is checked. Primeape is super checked. Well, you're faster and you can taunt me, but you know what? I could Sludge Bomb poison you, GG noob. Hazel is super checked. This spawn probably isn't that checked, but we see Toxicroak kinda checked. I ran Psybeam for the spawn back in the pre-Pokemon Home NU in Gen 8. Don't think I won't do it again. Guts Ursaring, super checked. Like, this spawn actually does quite a lot for NU. And of course, it's one of the best Rocky Helmet users ever, so you're gonna constantly get chip damage on any, you know, U-turn pivoting Scarfer. This is... I was talking with Eternally a ton, and we're just both thinking to ourselves, yeah, Wheezing comes back, this one literally saves NU day one. So, again, just like with Polyrath, expect this mon to be huge for the tier just immediately upon arrival. Furret, it got tidy up for some reason. Now, I'm not saying Furret is going to be viable at all. Not one bit. But what I can tell you with the utmost certainty, there will be more than one team on the ladder using a tidy up Furret. There might even be more than 2 teams doing that. I might be using one of these teams. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. This mod will get used, whether or not it should be used. With this stat spread, that is a question that you can answer yourself. All I'm saying is we know people will try it. Now, Gligar is an interesting case. Any other generation, I would not be listing Gligar dropping to NU, outside of course, Gen 4, where it is NU, and it is quite good. And that's because it's a great Eviolite wall. I mean, the stat spread doesn't look too good, but then you max out the HP, you consider Eviolite with some amount of special defense increase. You know, you'll do your speed creep with a Jolly Nature, fill this out, and then you multiply this number, whatever it is here, by 1.5. Bulkymon, you know, has Roost historically, knockoff. You'll notice the qualifier, though, I gave you, historically. This one didn't get Roost back. So that sucks, but it's got spikes, and we were theory crafting. The one still has knockoff and U-turn, by the way. I'll just fill out a moveset for your sake. It could run something like this. We were theory crafting a bit in the NU Discord. Join it if you haven't already. You could talk about NU. It's very fun. But we were talking about how maybe something like this could be okay for offense because, knockoff is always a good move. U-turn lets you keep up your momentum. And spikes is spikes. There's lots of offensive Pokemon that benefit from having a spiker. In addition, of course, it's another ground type option. It's also a ground immunity, which, electric immunity and ground immunity in one slot. Both of those are really good. It's still going to be walling Pokemon. It's just not going to be doing it as well as it used to because it lost Roost. Of course, another option you could see, I don't know exactly how you do the moveset, but you could see something like Rest Sleep Talk, maybe. Not Sleep Powder, dear God, please no. Maybe like this works on a team with a Cleric, of which I think we still only have Blissey, but that's the idea we'd be going with Gligar, right? But I believe it'll be pretty decent. It's also a fighting resist. Like, this mon is checking Hisui and Sneasel whether you want it to or not. Deal with it. Piloswine, there are rumors that it could get Slack Off, or it could get Spikes. It got neither, but the important thing about Piloswine, again, other than it just being a ground type, you'll notice the emphasis on ground types. The most important part is it's got thick fat. This means Jolteon may not be as straightforward to use going forward. Because now, you've got three Pokemon, I will say, three Pokemon types in NU that are going to be giving Jolteon a run for its money when it's trying to just set up games and sweep. You're going to have the normal ground types that get absolutely sent back by Terra Blast Ice, or even just Terra Blast. I'll keep it a Terra Blast Ice. You know, it covers those, and it covers Goodra and anything else that maybe uses Terra Dragon. You'll have the just standard special walls, where Goodra kind of counts in here, where some of them can get Terra Blasted, others can't, and you're just trying to Volt Switch on them forever. And then you'll have Piloswine, which cannot be Terra Blast Iced reliably, and instead you're going to be having to use maybe Terra Blast Water, or Grass if you want to super effectively hit it. I'd imagine Water just for the Ice Shard resistance. Of course, you see issues with all of these, right? If you're thinking a trifecta of like Goodra, Gligar, and Piloswine, for example, if Jolteon goes Terra Blast Water, you miss out on Goodra. If you go Terra Blast Ice, you miss out on Piloswine. If you go something else, you probably still miss out on Goodra, frankly. Like, say Terra Normal. We've seen that in previous metagames with the Silk Scarf. And it makes Hyper Voice pretty strong, but it's not going to be strong enough to break through Big Goodra. And with Goodra's move pool buffs, I'm here to tell you right now, you better be able to beat that mon. It's going to be everywhere. So, this mod will be good. I'm not sure how good, but it will have a place particularly for the Jolteon matchup. Dusclops finally gets Poltergeist, and of course this applies to Dusknoir too. The only reason I don't have Dusknoir listed here is because there's a part of me that feels like it will get just enough usage to stay out of NU because of it getting Poltergeist. You know, there's always a couple mons that the ladder loves to use because they're just, you know, they're favorites. I could see Dusknoir being that way for just enough time, but keep in mind, everything I'm saying applies to Dusknoir. I'll do a quick little bit about it. Because, frankly, Poltergeist being added doesn't really help Dusclops that much, because you're going to want to use Nightshade. 70 base attack is trash, and this mon is not investing into its attack. It's always going to pump up defenses. You know, you already got to invest a whole bunch into HP, because base 40, I'm here to tell you that ain't scaring anyone. So you try to maximize your defensive prowess as much as you can, but Dusknoir actually has a workable attack stat. And you're looking at a mon right here, 100. So Poltergeist coming off of that's actually kind of strong. And we'll see offensive Dusknoir sets. Shoutouts to when me and Awen used, I think it was Sub-Punch Dusknoir back in Sword and Shield in a video. Yeah, that one was trash. But Poltergeist would actually make it quite good, because now you have a reliable stab move that has more than, like, I think 40 power. I'm pretty sure that, or maybe Shadow Punch was all it had, which is like base 60 or 70. It's really bad. Dusclops won't benefit from this because it's already so weak. Poltergeist doesn't really swing the pendulum that way too much, but it's still worth mentioning in my view. I don't think this will see too much use in NU because the power level's kind of high, but maybe people try it. Probopass is back, and really the only thing relevant for it, I don't know if Body Press is a new move or not. It has Body Press. I was looking at this post here, and I kind of just didn't read over too closely if Body Press was new. Turns out it's not new, but what I will say is Probopass having Magnet Pull, it'll find a way to be used in NU at least a bit, because it probably can trap Copperajah decently. Just, you know, it's going to depend on your Terra type. It's going to depend also on what moves Copperajah's earning, but it's probably going to be able to trap that. It can also trap Earthworm. And those are both really relevant right now. I don't know if it'll see much general use. It'll probably be very specialized to, like, a core, where you run a Pokemon that once Steel's trapped, and Probopass can do that with some amount of effectiveness. Once again, another mon where it's like, the list of moves here aren't new. I just wanted to note Girder is returning. It will be NU, and it retained the important moves, Strain Punch, Knockoff, Defog. I don't know if Defog Girder is actually going to be relevant, but keeping Knockoff is very relevant. Of course, Girder historically using these bulk up sets with like Drain, Knock, and Mock. Knock, Mock, very nice rhyme there. And, I mean, that's good enough. Wheezing doesn't really wall you because you've got Guts. I mean, sometimes it runs Iron Fist because of Drain Punch and Mock both being boosted, but you can do Guts if you just don't want to worry about status. And so, it's nice to be able to get by Wheezing. It's also just a generally very bulky Pokemon. 85, 85, 50. I mean, you supplement this with an Eviolite, it's actually pretty decent, especially when you're going max HP. Because say I want to really run a bulky girder set, I mean, I could do like 16 attack, adamant, you know, hit that little jump point. I don't actually know if that is a jump point. Oh, look at that, it is. Hold on, go back to 16. No, I said go back to 16, how dare you. Something like this. Throw in a Violet on there, I mean, you're nearly at 300 special defense, it's pretty good. So, this spawn should be okay, at least. Probably gonna have a bit too much competition with better fighting types, like again, your Toxicroaks, Passimians, Hisuian Sneasels, Paldean Tauroses, to really find a great niche, but again, worth mentioning. It will be viable, at least, or usable, I should say. Now, Swanna. Whew. Defog is not a buff, but Knockoff and U-turn, not U-turn, Flip Turn, these are new moves. So Swanna actually got some sizable changes in this regard. I don't know how well you could actually fit Flip Turn, but Knockoff is going to be pretty decent. We've seen these, like, kind of just fast utility mons always be relevant, so, like, let me put Roost, and I'll say, Hurricane, because I want to hit Croak. This probably could be a pretty easy set to run. You could even go Flip Turn instead of Knockoff if you just want to be able to pivot. But this makes Swanna far harder to just take advantage of, and probably opens up bulkier EV spreads too. In Sun and Moon Inu, Swanna has seen some, like, sporadic usage. Not necessarily because it's, like, great, but it matches up pretty decently into Sun and Moon Inu's hazard setters. And so it, you know, people will use it with Flyanium Z, these offensive EV spreads, and you just generally could switch into, you know, the Steelix spam that always is, you know, happening, because it's a great mana tier. Get pretty good opportunities to wall break. You could switch into Seismitoads as well. You could switch into, what's another one? You can switch it like Druddigon, kind of, but not really. You really just hope that the Drud is low, and you threaten it out. Mostly Steelix and Size, so those are the two best Stealth Arc setters in the tier. And then you just get to start wall breaking. This gen, I think we could see it take a bit more defensive of an approach with these changes. And I mean, it's, again, it's a bulky water type. Well, it's a water type. It's not very bulky, but maybe you try out, like, you know, max speed with Timid. And then you pump up your HP. I mean, this is okay. I'd probably take Resisted Hits decently. I think, though, we could see more sets crop up like this, and new Defog is always going to be appreciated. Just gives us more options to build with. Trevenant is coming back. It kept Poltergeist, so I will mention that, just because. Great status absorber. You will remember that Eternally and I really were big stans of this Pokemon last gen. And it got Knockoff as well. I'm gonna be honest, Knockoff is kind of bad on this mon, because I want to spam Poltergeist. But hey, maybe if you run like one of those Harvest sets, if you don't go with Ghost Stab, you maybe run like Horn Leech, like Sub-Leech Seed Horn Leech Knock. Maybe that could work. I really don't know how to feel about it getting Knock. It doesn't feel like a very usable move, but again, I'm mentioning it because it is relevant. It's a good move in general, so you know, he got it. Vikavolt is coming back. Again, it's a mon that didn't get notable move pool changes, but Vikavolt's historically been an NU Pokemon. I figure it'll be viable once again. Like, we have Blissey this gen, which actually is probably one of the few mons that will be able to defensively just wall Vikavolt. The question will be how long until people run substitute Metronome Vikavolt with, like, Terra Ghost to try and stunt on Blissey. I don't know, we'll see. But it should be a pretty decent mon once again. You look at the Volt Switch deterrents in Inu. Obviously, right now, they get absolutely clapped by Vikavolt Bugbuzz, like Sandaconda and Jolteon, who are not Switch-ins. And even out of the new mons we're getting, I mean, Piloswine, that's not really going to keep up. Gligar kinda can, but it wouldn't shock me if Energy Ball does upwards of 40. Golem, Lamau, and of course Sandslash, Lamau. So you figure Vikavolt will be really strong once again. So, yeah. Just wait for it to drop to Inu. Cramorant, he is back, and again, I have Defog noted here, just because it does get Defog. It did last gen too. What'll be interesting to see is how it fares versus Swanna, because they're literally the same typing, but Swanna has Knockoff and Flip Turn, whereas Cramorant doesn't. The difference is Cramorant's got Bulk. So bulky EV spreads are going to work far better on it than they would on Swanna. Of course, Gulp Missile is also like an actual ability. You'll notice Swanna doesn't really have great abilities. Not for its role, at least. Like, Hydration is situationally okay. And then Big Pex and Keen Eye are also very situationally okay. Gulp Missile's just, you know, generally useful because you always earn Surf on this anyway because it doesn't get Scald. And you could constantly force damage. Eventually you can get that paralysis when you're using your Pikachu Gulp. I'd keep an eye out on how the competition fares there, because one of these mons will drop to PU and probably be very strong. And then the last mon out of the new additions to the metagame, at least what I envision, is more Pico. Once again, it's another mon where I don't really think it'll be that good, but it does have knockoff now, which is a big buff. Because previously, a lot of mons could just keep switching into your Aura Wheel, and it's like, the move's not very strong. Nope. Aura Wheel. Okay, will not tell me what the move does, unfortunately, because this mon is not in the game right now. But, you know, these mons would have Helmet, like Sandaconda and Weezing. They wouldn't take much damage from an Aura Wheel, and then you just keep taking Chip the entire game. But now, you can just knock that little Helmet off and then spam Aura Wheel later. It's something. I believe it has Rapid Spin still, Parting Shot, so it could also be a bit more of a utility mon, with something like Spin, Knock, Spin, Knock, Parting Shot, and Aura Wheel. So, some food for thought. Now these. These are the changes that are going to be major. Now, Bruxish got Flip Turn. This is an insane buff. Because something that, of course, NU players have been clamoring for, and this is kind of before we got the home shifts, but after we lost both Passimian and Zoroark, a lot of NUers were wanting some Scarfers that could pivot, or just general fast mons that could pivot, because at the time, all we had then was, like, Jolteon getting used for that role, because Rotom had ticked back up in use, and of course, you know, Volt Turn, or Volt Switch, different from U-Turn. Well, now we got Bruxish with Flip Turn, and I imagine something like Scarf Brux, which was already a good set, absolutely to the moon, because you get, like, Wave Crash, Psychic Fangs, and then, like, Crunch. This works really well as an idea, because now, Bruxish doesn't have to worry about predicting nearly as much, because you have Flip Turn, which is always safe to go for. 70 base power move, just like U-Turn, just like Volt Switch. But unlike how U-Turn is oftentimes not stab, this move is stab. It's going to be a lot stronger. If you ever Terra Water as well in a game, it's going to be doing mad damage. And with NU's bulky water situation right now not being like the greatest, and just generally bulky water resistant Pokemon not really getting a lot of use, because like Arboliva's good, but I haven't seen it a ton. Appleton right now isn't very common, even if it's still regarded pretty highly. Goodra's physical bulk, not the best. You know, Lurantis absent from the meta entirely. Quill is always risky to switch in because of Psyfangs. Even kind of the same goes for Mo. And Scarf Brux. This mon being better is very warping for the metagame too, because it changes a lot. Right now, Rotom Mo is the most common Scarfer, and you saw it. It's only base 86 speed, meaning you are faster. So, not only do you revenge kill a wider pool of threats, you also revenge kill Rotom Mo. And, hey, physical Scarfers are always appreciated when Jolteon exists, because that stupid bastard is so fast, and boosts up his special defense so much. It is so... Anyhow, next up is Cacturne. Now, Cacturne got knockoff, and that's pretty huge, because we remember those utility Cacturne sets that kind of got a little use, but not like a ton. So you'd see like Terra Ghost Cacturne with Encore and Leech Seed. And I mean, it's kind of boring, but it worked pretty well just to annoy these, you know, bulky setup mons. Now, the mon is knockoff. I don't know if on an offensive set you'd see that too much, because Sucker Punch feels mandatory. Spikes is always pretty mandatory still, and then like Leaf Storm is mandatory, it feels at least, if you're going those mixed offensive sets. I guess you could drop Dark Pulse then for Naka, that's pretty decent. I just worry about how you match up versus something like Drifblim, which is going to be spamming Strength Sap on you the entire game. But this move is really nice. At least now too, talking about Sucker Punch, you don't have to rely on that to be your physical dark move. This is far better. Even helps a lot into something like, say, I don't know, Decidueye, if you didn't want to get U-turned on. Well, okay, that doesn't help versus that at all. My bad. I was thinking about a different interaction. But I mean, knock helps versus stuff like Articuno, maybe, that would otherwise switch into you pretty easily. It helps you punish something like Colossal as well, which can rapid spin on you very easily. Now you can just hit it with a little knock. Helps make sure, too, like Toxicroak and Hisui and Sneasel are never for free switching into you, at least. So, hey, there are like no debuffs. This one, Bombardier as well, another mon you just neuter. Hisui and Quillfish, another mon you just neuter. Like, it's getting its niche back, in a way, and it is still a water immunity. I don't know if this is enough to bring Cacturne back into Inu, but it's definitely better now. Copperaj has probably got, like, the third biggest buffs, fourth biggest. Copperaj is a top 5 in terms of mons that got buffed. Well, I'll talk about the ones I guess, in order later. It got Heat Crash back. That's huge because in Sword and Shield Inu, an EV spread, or an EV benchmark, I should say, that people often like to hit, is at least enough attack to one-shot Rotom Mow with Heat Crash. And, well, we live in a Rotom Mow economy. So, one-shotting that with Heat Crash being possible again is really, really nice. Also, getting knockoff is the most random thing ever. Like I said, you'll notice a trend. A lot of mods are getting knockoff. So, knock is going to be cool because, again, Weezing's coming back. Being able to get rid of that thing's helmet is huge. Getting rid of Sandaconda's helmet is huge. Hell, being able to get rid of a Rotom Mow's Scarf, if you're not running Heat Crash on this, you're probably still running knockoff, right? So being able to get rid of that thing's Choice Scarf is going to be huge. You can punish a Colossal, maybe, if just by getting rid of its boots. Quillfish, you get rid of its helmet as well. I'm just scrolling down to see if there's any other mon that I really want to mention. I think I've mentioned just about everything I would. Sableye even. I mean, I guess you could get rid of that thing's item, but who cares? Tauros Paldia Blaze is probably another one of the relevant ones, because it could switch into you pretty well, thanks to Intimidate. So get rid of its boots, get rid of its Choice Band or Scarf. Decidueye is Poltergeist again, so Choice Bandit Decidueye is, like, back. We are going to be seeing this exact set used a ton by tomorrow. And if you've watched 27 minutes and 30 seconds of this video, a little spoiler. Tomorrow's video is recorded as of today before the update was implemented. Originally, today's upload was hopefully going to be using the DLC 1 stuff, but unfortunately, there's, I believe, only one developer actively working on it, which is... Hey, Godspeed to them. I hope they're not going insane. But thankfully, people in the NU room reminded me, hey, you could talk about the new stuff, and yeah. So we're doing that today instead. Tomorrow will be some HO stuff, and the day after, hopefully we'll be using the new stuff. So yeah. But this Decidueye set will be incredible. As good as Spirit Shackle is, Poltergeist is just better. We will, of course, return to the question when we're, you know, thinking other Decidueye sets of, hey, which is better, generally speaking, Poltergeist or Spirit Shackle? Because, yeah, you're going to see Polterproofing happen again. Specifically, Rotom Mow will try doing that some. Other Mons, I'm sure, will do it again. And Shackle might end up being better sometimes because you don't have to worry about doing 0 damage. And again, we have the question of, why the hell do I have knockoff with Poltergeist? Look, it's just a good move. You can put U-turn here as well, which is probably going to be better overall, but you get the idea. Drifblim is an interesting one too, because again, knockoff is a move it gets now. Also, I just thought about this real quick. Let me, yeah, don't worry about this yet. I know what you see. Don't worry, we'll talk about it. It's okay. Don't worry. Drifblim got knock, and I'm kind of wondering how you justify it. Because you're running Defog, you're running Strength Sap, and you're running a status move, probably at least. Where do you fit knock into this? Because you want a stab attack. You definitely want Air Slash right now specifically, in my opinion. Because otherwise, okay, have fun letting every fighting type in the tier set up. I mean, status sucks for them, but still. I just find it better to be able to threaten them, because I have seen sequences with, like, Toxicroak, for example, where if that mon gunks you once, and it poisons you, the next time you try checking it, you are getting sent back by that +2 gunk shot. So I don't know, do you drop a status move for knockoff? Because I do think that's kind of relevant. I don't know. I think this is a good change anyway, because Drifblim is so passive. And you kind of let every hazard remover in for free, so being able to get a knock on like a Colossal or a Cryogonal or any of the returning Defoggers, I do think that is pretty good. You know, even any bulky setup sweeper that comes in versus you, maybe if it's like got like sub, if Drifblim is faster than it by some act of God. I mean, hey, think about the Dunsparce, for example, which should never try to set up versus you, but what if they do? The Electros. At least you can knock them. It also means that something like a Copper Raja, if it tries to get really greedy and trade versus you, thinking you're like Thunderwave, you could goop them like that. I don't know, it's a very interesting move. I think Blissey is probably the most relevant target for it. And just any like wall breaker that switches into you and doesn't really care too much about what you have. It's like Clawitzer. Maybe that mon's trying to come in on you. Maybe like a Rotom-Mow. You can get rid of the Scarf. A Goodra, even if it's trying to trade versus you. Dunsparce got these moves. I don't know. They're not really that relevant. Scale Shot to Dunsparce, we will see some people try some weird double dance stuff with, you know, whether it, probably on Coil. We'll see people try Coil Scale Shot, I'm sure, on this one. I don't know how good it'll be, but it's gonna be something to watch out for. It also got Toxic, and I think Toxic's actually kind of relevant, because, one, I think Terra Poison to Dunsparce might be the best Terra type for it right now, but that's a topic for another, you know, time. But I think Stealth Rock to Dunsparce becomes a bit better with Toxic, because you could run Rocks, Toxic Roost, and then, like, Body Slam. And honestly, that sounds pretty decent. So maybe, or Boom Burst, you know, whether you want to be physical or special, who cares? Maybe that could be something we see more of, because, it, you know, Stealth Rock to Dun has always gotten a little bit of talk. It's a very bulky option. Really, it was just once we got Chansey solidified in the meta, or Blissey dropping, even like specially defensive Ursaring with Rest Talk, the idea of a utility to Dunsparce became really pointless. Those are just better mons to use. I think now there's a bit more appeal to it. So yeah. Electros gets knockoff back. It probably is only relevant for Assault Vest sets, but hey, here it is. You've got the ultimate progress-making move now. This is huge as well. Maybe not even for NU. This might make it so Floatzel jumps back up to, like, OU with Rain. But for the longest time, the one niche that Barraskewda had... I don't even know if Barraskewda has the move right now. But I think it was, like, the one niche Skewda had, or some other mon had, was Flip Turnover. Correct me if I'm wrong on the Flip Turn distribution, but regardless... The one thing everyone wanted Floatzel to have was Flip Turn, because then you're not relegated to getting them on out and then being like, well, guess I got a Wave Crash, huh? You can actually just pivot for a bit, utilize how strong the move is under Rain, utilize how strong you're with the band, and just make that little bit of progress, you know, chip away at, I mean, for NU's sake, I'll say, chip away at the Arboliva, chip away at the, there's really not resistances that you care about, chip away at the Decidueye, chip away at the Goodra, chip away at the Lorances, yeah! And then, you know, you can actually just start wave crashing them and one-shotting as opposed to maybe having to risk a two-shot. Again, I don't know if I feel like this is a buff that's more relevant to higher tier Rain. As an NU, frankly, Floatzel one-shots you with wave crash if you don't resist it. And frankly, it two-shots you if you resist it. For a lot of the mons, like... We've routinely seen Terra Water Floatzel just blast a Lurantis with Wave Crash. I think, really, for our sake, the appeal to Floatzel, I'm going to say the appeal to Flip Turn is now I may not have to Terra Water to get my KO thresholds. I'm going to be able to go for my Flip Turn a couple times, get you maybe a little weaker, and if you're not able to find a turn to safely recover off your health, I'm going to be able to slam you with that Wave Crash, not even burn my Terra, and two-shot you. So that's where I really see this mon benefiting in NU. For OU, it's really just a matter of take that and maybe you're turning, you know, 3-hit KOs into 2-hit KOs with Terra. I don't know. I mean, the mon's so strong, that might not even be relevant, but hey. Disregard me at this point, and we're moving on. Frostlass gets Poltergeist back. It doesn't have triple axle still, which is, for Frostlass' sake, kind of upsetting because the mon isn't the strongest. But importantly, it has Icicle Crash. And I mean even Ice Shard still. So this makes Choice Band Frostlass once again actually a good mon. And if we look at our Dark types in the tier, or even our normal types too. I could mention them. A lot of them don't want to take Icicle Crash. Like Blissey is taking a lot, Bombardier is taking a lot, Braviary is taking a lot, Cryogonal obviously Poltered. The Dunsparce, if it's Coil, it's gonna take a bit more because those invest in Special Bulk. Fire Giraffe is not a Pokemon anyone uses. Grimm's taking a lot from a Crash. Indeedee is probably getting O-Code because it sucks. Mabostiff is not a real Pokemon. H-Quill, probably takes it decently well, especially with Intimidate. But, you know, get your hazards up. This mon's one of those, like, it could run Choice Item, and it could run a hazard because it gets Trick. So you could do, like, Poltergeist, Icicle Crash, Trick Spikes. This was a set we saw last gen kind of work out. And you could just beat down some of these other ones like that. Yeah, did you know they took away high horsepower from Glastrier? Yeah. I learned that when I was trying to build this. You know what it got is right now? Stupid Stomping Tantrum, but thank God they realized the mistake of taking away the horse move from the horse, and they gave it back. So, it's not that important. It just helps a bit versus Quillfish. This one is so irrelevant in you, and I'm shocked. Let me go on a little rant for a moment. If you're watching 36 minutes and 22 seconds in, you've clearly been enjoying anyway, so you'll listen. I thought this mon would be broken as hell when it dropped, and I'm not alone. A lot of people expected Glassed to be incredible, because the biggest issue it has always had is how bad its typing is. Yes, I am a bulky Pokemon, but guess what? I'm slow as hell, and my typing's bad. So not only do I have to often switch into moves to, you know, try and leverage my bulk anyway, so I could actually have turns to Wall Breaker set up, but one, my typing is really bad, so I'm more susceptible to the Pokemon having super effective moves for me. And two, my speed is so bad, so I'm probably getting outsped and taking another, potentially super effective, hit before I can act. And Terastallizing, you know, in theory fixes that, because I could be a Fairy type now, or a Water type, or Steel, or Ghost, or Ground, anything better than Ice. And it's just not seen any use, and I'm shocked by it. So again, I mean, if we're talking about actual applicability of this buff, it really just comes down to those, like, stab move plus 1 coverage move sets. They're a bit better now. I think the problem, though, is if you go high horsepower instead of close combat, and that probably is why Glass isn't very good right now. Earthworm and Quillfish are both quite good Pokemon, and you can't have a coverage move that covers them both. So those sub-sword stance sets that you'd see a lot in last generation don't work, like, at all right now. Are y'all ready for a Gigabuff Mongudra? I don't know why they decided they... Clearly, the Pokemon Company got really upset with Joey's video talking about how Goodra was so bad. They definitely saw it, and they definitely took notes, because they gave this mod Scald, Knockoff, and Toxic? You're telling me, finally, the pseudo-legendary, designed to be a tank of some kind, with only the defensive abilities, that never had this much utility before, because for some reason they decided their design philosophy was, hey, let's give it a lot of coverage. And it's not like it has bad attacking stats, mind you, it's just clearly the stats were designed with something else in mind. Now, yeah, now you get Scald, so have fun burning everything. You get Knockoff, have fun removing everything's item, and oh, you know what? Here, have another one, have Toxic. So, you know, now I can Toxic the Dunsparces if they want to, you know, try and mid-ground on me, on just a Draco, because they're really bulky. I could Toxic an Articuno. I could knock a Blissey's boots off. Hell, I could Toxic an Umbreon if I've got a Cleric on my team. I don't care about their Synchronize. You know, I could knock off the item of an Articuno, even. I could knock off the item of a Cryogonal. I could knock off a Clefairy's a Violet. Apparently, I'm gonna be honest, I could have talked about Clefairy in the returning Mon segment, but I don't think that Mon's stats are going to be good enough for NU. It kept knockoff, but I don't think it matters. But there you go. You watch this far, you know Clefairy might be useful. All this to say, wow. I was theory modding a set. I feel like something like Scald, Dragon Pulse, Rest Talk could be okay. Like, Dragon Pulse, Rest Talk, and in one of these moves sounds quite good. As a defensive mod. Like, you could even run, like, generally physically defensive Goodra now, I think. Have like Terra Water, so you're a bit bulkier. You still have Sap Sipper, so you're not weak to grass ever. I don't know. This one sounded spicy. Heracross, it got knockoff back. I'm gonna be honest. I think Throat Chop is barely worse. Knockoff mostly matters, I think, on whether you're one-shotting or not. Because Throat Chop's base 80, knockoff is 97.5 and then drops down to 65. So I think over 2 turns, I know it is. It's still a buff, just not by much. So I'll be interested to see how many like KO thresholds this changes. Realistically, the reason knockoff is huge for Heracross is getting rid of helmets. Because you don't want to be taking... You already have Flame Orb, right? Your Guts. You already take so much chip damage with this mon. But being able to knock a Sandaconda's helmet or a Quillfish's helmet, that goes a long way to making sure you do not... A Houndstone's helmet, that goes a long way to making sure this mon's actually able to stick around longer and throw off its facades, its CCs, you know, its Mega Horns. Also, of course, Scarf Moxicross. A Scarfer with knockoff? Hey, that's a friend of mine. Now, the dog actually got a move people were really hoping it would get. It has Poltergeist now. And 101 attack's actually usable. So, Houndstone now has a, you know, spammable stab attack. This also might make it relevant on Sand and higher tiers, which... I mean, there's that. I'm sure, again, this is a mod that I can actually see, like Floatzel, having a bit more applicability in higher tiers than it does in NU, solely off the buff, feeling like it applies more there than it does to us. So, also, speaking of Sandmons, why the hell did they give Tyranitar knockoff? Why the hell they decided that was what needed to happen? Why the hell they not give Lando knockoff back, but they said, you know what, Thundurus and Tornadus? Y'all are cool. Have this move. Crazy. Anyhow, speaking of knockoff, once again, another mod that got knockoff, Lurantis, and it got superpower. These are actually not mons. These are actually moves it used to have. So, good work, Lurantis. You've had your move pool fixed. I think people will probably not run superpower a ton unless they're using Lurantis specifically under Trick Room, because you're still gonna want Synthesis. You're probably always running this for a defog mon. You're always running Leaf Storm because you want a stab move. And knockoff just fits the mon's identity better. It's a utility option. Like superpower... I mean, superpower has targets. Like, it hits Copper for more, it hits Earthworm for more. And knockoff's just generally a bit more punishing overall. So while I don't disagree that superpower will have use, knockoff's pretty clearly the superior option. Muck actually also got knockoff, which is very interesting. Because Alolan Muck's had it the whole time. This one kind of got scuffed. What I really like about Muck getting knockoff, though, is Terra Dark was already its best Terra type, generally speaking, because it gave you that immunity to Psychic types, and, well, we've got a lot of Psychic types. So getting to be able to have Terra Dark boosted knockoff just kind of seems like a really cool deal. It's another mon, I will keep saying, I'm going to keep reiterating the same points because they always apply. Another mon that benefits from removing Rocky Helmets from everything else in the tier. Also being able to potentially, if you're running like T-Spike's Mug, for example, being able to knock a Drifblim's boots is pretty cool. Maybe makes it a bit more punished if rocks go up and it's having to switch into those. Also, knockoff with Poison Touch just sounds very, very unfair. Quillfish got a move return and I believe a move buff. I don't think it always had flip turn. I might be wrong, but it gets flip turn now. I don't actually think it'll be that good. I don't see why I'd run flip turn Quillfish, even with like offensive sets, because I want Swords Dance, I want Gunk Shot, I want Aqua Jet, and I want Liquidation. Maybe you could justify dropping Liquidation for a flip turn and say, okay, I'll just clean with Jet. That's fair. Utility Coefficient just needs too many other moves. So I don't see this move being too relevant, but Scale Shot coming back is maybe okay. This gives Quillfish a bit more justification to drop Jet. Because now, you got your speed issue patched up. Of course, there's trade-off of being vulnerable to priority if you don't have priority of your own. But this also helps it boost outside of rain teams. So you could run, Swords Dance, Liquidation, Gunk Shot, Scale Shot. It's another option for coverage too. I mean, maybe the Sandaconda tries going for Terra Dragon, And then wham! Scale shot from Terra Dragon Coolfish. Get on, noob. Anyhow, I think that's pretty cool. Okay, did do that one right. Good, good. Sandaconda, another scale shot returning mon. I think that's not gonna be overly relevant for NU. I just don't know if Coil Scale Shot Conda will take off. Though we've seen Conda run Dragon Rush very successfully. So, I'm including it anyway. I think it'd be more relevant on a bit faster of a Sandaconda with Coil, so do with that info as you will. Scyther getting dual wing beat back is... Bleh. Scyther getting dual wing beat back, there we go, is huge. I ran the calc on Sandaconda. This is about like a 30% increase in damage. So, yeah. It didn't get knockoff or roost back, thankfully. I think that would have pushed it very, very far over the edge. Yeah, it's weird. Scizor got knockoff, Scyther didn't. Which I'm still not entirely sure I understand, but... Yeah, who am I to complain about a mon that was already incredibly potent, not getting more buffs? Yeah, I'm chilling. But like I said, it's a 30% damage buff. It's going to make mons like Quillfish and Sandaconda, and even like... I was gonna say Rotom, but that's not really relevant here. I mean, I guess I could say Earthworm. Maybe you're dual wing beating that if you don't have close combat. All these mods are gonna be feeling the pain far more than they used to. So I would keep Scyther on your watch list. It might get banned. And holy shit, we have viable Sneasel again. I have already said this mod is not viable at all right now in NU. It is going to be one of the best mods in the tier. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care that we have Hisuian Sneasel, which might be viewed as better right now. This mod will be better. It just will be. I don't care that I can't run a Violet and get more bulk. I don't care that I can't really run, you know, choice sets as well because of, you know, Hazard Week. Clearing hazards in Gen 9. Yawn. You know, why would I do that? I will run Boots SD. I will run your team into the ground. And I also have priority. So, guess what, little Hisuian Sneasel stan? You lost. It's over. You're washed. Knockoff is huge for this. Again, literally its best physical move out. You wanna know what it is? It's Terra Blast Dark. You wanna know what the next option is? Bite. I am not running Bite on a Pokemon and calling it viable unless I have Technician. Shoutouts Mousehold. So getting knockoff back is going to be wonderful. I can knock off a Passimian Scarf. I can knock off a Paldean Taurus' Scarf or whatever item it wants to run. I can knock off that Colossal's Boots. I can knock off the Sandaconda's... not Sandaconda. The Quillfish's Helmet. This mod is going to be incredible once again. Also, again, ramifications for how good Weavile will become. Weavile is going to go from being, like, barely RU, precipice of dropping to NU, to becoming one of OU's best mons once again. Just, I guarantee it. Or at least be viable in OU again. I don't know how good. I'll be honest, Poltergeist Spiritomb is just here, just so I can mention Sableye as well. They both got Poltergeist. I don't really think this changes anything. Sableye wouldn't run Poltergeist to begin with, because it has too many other moves at once. But there's like a world where I could see Will-O-Wisp, Rest Talk, Polter, Spiritomb maybe getting used. I don't know, man. Toxicroak got knockoff back. This is pretty big for Choice Scarf sets, or even just 4 attacks Toxicroak sets. It's just a nice filler move. Like Scarf Croak had kind of significant move set issues this gen, I would say. Because once you got past Gunk Shot, Close Combat, and Earthquake, you didn't really have a great last move to put on there. And Knockoff is a great last move now. Again, it applies to Scarf. It even applies to those 4 attacks ones because you can run Double Dark if you want. You could do like CC Gunk, Sucker, Knock with Terra Dark. That's pretty solid. Just a generally useful move on a mon that always is making contact with, you know, physical sets. And Serena also got knockoff. This is absolutely huge, because I think the reason Serena's been so bad lately is it doesn't have knockoff. So when you're looking at the common hazard setters, particularly the spikers with like Colossal and Quillfish, you kind of just dealt with secondary effects way too frequently for Serena to have too much consistency. So now I can knock off a Quill's helmet, I can knock off a Weezing's helmet too, mind you. I can knock off a Cole's boots, and if I'm running protective pads, I don't care about, what's it called, Flame Body. I could get rid of a Drifblim's boots as well, which will otherwise wall me. There's some other mons too that Knock is super good into, but not coming to mind right now, so. Oh, it's helpful for, like, just crippling mons like Hisui and Sneasel and Toxicroak too. Just a nice move that you could actually, do something to them with. So they're not switching them for free. And then the last buff, another very significant buff, Umbreon got Toxic back. So really any status move is super useful on Umbreon. So getting Toxic back in itself isn't like some world changer, but it is a nice option for them on get. I still think I'd probably run T-Wave or Yawn in a lot of matchups in NU, but I mean, hey, I feel like this, it's kind of like the same thing with the Dunsparce getting Toxic. A bit of extra distribution of the move might force bulky setup mons to consider Terra Poison more now. And like I was switching to Dunsparce, since Umbreon's a really good Terra Poison user itself, you could get that perfectly accurate Toxic. And hey, you don't have to worry about missing. Maybe you force worse Terra types from other Pokemon. I think that's pretty cool. But I hope you all enjoyed this. If I had to pick my 5 biggest buffs that happened with the new additions to mons we already have, it'd probably be like Bruxish, Copperajah, Sneasel, Goodra, and Scyther, with shoutouts going to Serena and Toxicroak. At least for NU's sake. I mean, a lot of these buffs are so huge, it's hard to pick 5. But I think that'd be my list. Of course, once we have this implemented on PS, you already know I will be there. I hope you all enjoyed. I'll catch you next time. Peace.